Today, I'm showing you how to cook the perfect steak. I know you've probably seen this 1,000 times, but this is how I do it. It gets the most intense, smoky flavor, and it is just absolutely delicious. We're also making a peppercorn sauce, and these two work absolutely perfect together. Now, the most important thing before we get started is, of course, lighting up big green egg or your barbecue. I'm gonna show you exactly how to do it, and it is super easy. What we wanna do is first open this up, take out that grate that's in the center. Then we're just going to fill our egg with some lump charcoal. Not all the way, and then just spread it out so it's nice and flat. When you have that done, I like to use these little speedy lighters. Just shove them in there. Everyone has a different way of lighting these types of things. Just get them in there right in the middle. Then what we're going to do is use a blowtorch and just get these on fire. Once that's on fire, we'll add our plate back in. We can then shut the lid, open up the vents on both top and bottom. And by doing that, what we are doing is allowing oxygen to go through the bottom, through the fire, and then out the top. Just creates a really nice atmosphere in there for the fire to grow. And what we're going to do is let this heat for about 15 minutes or until it's about 240 degrees Celsius. Now, of course, in this video, we're doing a big steak. This one is actually massive. It weighs 1 kilo or 2.2 pounds, and it's a ribeye, which is a Scotch fillet with the bone in. Apart from that, we are also making a sauce. We're making a peppercorn sauce, and it's one of my favorite sauces. It's also actually in my book. For that, we're going to need 1 shallot or shallot. Take off the end, slice it in half, and then peel it. Didn't actually need to throw the scraps away here because they just blew away in the wind. It's quite windy outside. What we're going to do is just make thin slices across, do the horizontal slice to break up the formation, and then dice this into small to medium-sized pieces. Along with the shallot, we also need 3 cloves of garlic. Use the side of your knife, push down and crush. It will activate the allicin compound, which is what gives garlic its strong flavor. Then go through with your knife and roughly chop it into small to medium-sized consistent pieces. For the peppercorns, I'm using 10 grams of green peppercorns and 7 grams of black peppercorns. The green peppercorns do come in a brine, so just drain that off. You don't need to rinse them, it's all extra flavor. Add these to a mortar and pestle, and then just crush these up into a paste. If you don't have a mortar and pestle, you can use cracked black pepper out of a pepper grinder, and then just chop up the green peppercorns, or you can add it to a regular blender. That choice is all yours. Now, to cook the peppercorn sauce, place a pan onto a medium-high heat. Add in 2 tablespoons or 28 grams of unsalted butter. Allow that to melt and start to bubble, then add in the shallot as well as a nice sprinkle of salt. And we're going to saute this for about 3 to 4 minutes until they start to become translucent, pick up a lot of flavor, and have a tiny little bit of golden color on them. When you have that done, we can add in the chopped up garlic. You can also mince it or slice it. The choice is all yours. Mix that all through and then saute this for 1 minute for that garlic to enhance in flavor. To deglaze the pan, add in 60 milliliters or 1/4 cup of brandy or cognac. If you can't consume alcohol, beef or chicken stock or even vegetable stock is completely fine. Mix that all through and allow it to reduce down by 2/3. Then we're also going to add in 1/4 cup or 60 milliliters of beef stock. If you're adding beef stock before, just double up on it, it's completely fine. And then allow this to reduce by 2/3 again. Add in 1/2 cup or 125 milliliters of thickened cream, also known as whipping cream or heavy cream. It has a fat percentage of about 35%. Add in the crushed up peppers that we did at the beginning, also adding in salt to taste. Then mix this all together. We're going to allow this to come up to a simmer, and when it is at a simmer, reduce the heat to low and cook for about 3 to 4 minutes until it's thick. You have something that looks like this. We can pop it aside until we're ready to serve. Moving on to the steak, I'm just adding over a couple of teaspoons of olive oil on either side and then rubbing that through. This is going to be a binder to help our seasoning stick, as well as allowing that nice smoky flavor to penetrate the meat. And I know some of you might be thinking I'm adding a crazy amount of salt here to both sides as well as on the side of the meat. But a steak this side definitely needs it. You got to remember that there's a lot of meat inside that surface, and we want it to penetrate all the way through so we have an even flavor throughout. Just remember though, this is how I do it, and if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. I'm also adding over a little bit of cracked black pepper, which also flew away in the wind. When it comes to cooking a steak, especially this size, I always go with temperature and not time. So I'm using a wireless thermometer so I can track it the whole time. And this is just going to allow us to get that perfect cook each and every single time. Now, when the barbecue's nice and hot, burp it a couple of times just to allow that smoke and heat to escape slowly. Then we can add in our steak, close the lid, and then what we're going to do is maintain a temperature on the barbecue at about 240 degrees Celsius or 470 degrees Fahrenheit, using the vents at the top and the bottom. Now, while we are cooking the steak to temperature, I do like to time the intervals of how many times I flip this, and what I do is usually flip around 6 to 7 minutes.
I like to flip the steak quite a bit just to get that even crust all over, because if you just leave it on one side, it's going to char and you're actually going to ruin the surface of a steak. Even when you see those lines on a steak, it's not the proper way to actually cook one. If you are wondering on a cook time of a steak about this size, it usually takes about 20 to 25 minutes, and I probably flip this about 3 to 4 times. Now at this stage, the steak just hit 48 degrees Celsius or 118 degrees Fahrenheit internal temperature. At that moment, it's about rare going on medium rare, but a steak this size needs about 10 minutes to rest, and it will creep about 5 to 6 degrees Celsius. It is a good idea to rest it over a wire rack, that way any resting juices can drip off and you can add it to your sauce. But look how good that steak looks, that crust is absolutely perfect. So after about 8 to 10 minutes of resting time, we can then start slicing this up. Just for presentational purposes, I like to take off that bone, and then we can start slicing this into strips. Make sure you do it across the grain, that way it will break up the muscle fibers and result in a really tender steak. This steak is already extremely tender, you can just tell by the slicing of it, and it smells incredible as well. I've cooked this steak to medium rare. I will leave times and temperatures in the description for you if you like to cook it a bit differently. This can then be served up, and don't forget about the sauce.
Now with everything said and done, there is only one thing left to do. And that is, of course, we can then dig it. The flavor on that is absolutely incredible. It's tender, it's juicy, it has that fantastic smoky flavor, and the peppercorn sauce is incredible too, but that steak really does stand out, and it shows you what using quality ingredients does as well. Of course, you're not using this every single day, you're not going out and buying a really expensive steak, but I highly recommend trying it yourself. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, leave a comment for the algorithm, it all helps me out massively, and subscribe if you haven't already. It's free, so why not? And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.